Larry, call to order.
I'll call the meeting to order. Christie, roll call.
Kyle,
Here.
Larry,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Mark, Brian,
Here.
Danielle, here, Jeremy,
Here.
Greg,
Yes.
Jim.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, let's pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we got proof of publication right here. Visitors and correspondence, anyone desiring to speak on any item or issue not on the agenda, or any item on the agenda that does not include a public hearing, may do so, but we shall limit it to 3 minutes. Persons should identify themselves by name and address. Persons speaking should not expect the planning commission to engage in back and forth dialogue regarding their comments. Unless an agenda item includes a public hearing, no person may speak during the business portion of the meeting, provided, however, persons speaking during the public hearing are limited to between 5 and 20 minutes. The public is advised a copy of the Open Meetings Act is located on the north wall of the council chamber. One copy of the reproducible written material to be discussed at this meeting is available for examination or copying. I'd like a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Brian and Mark, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda. This is the first time we've had this. All agenda items on the consent agenda will be acted upon in a single motion. Consent items are being forwarded to the commission members. Any individual item may be removed by the commission members for specific discussion and consideration. 7A, approved minutes of June 18th, 2024 and July 16th Planning Commission meeting. Any discussion on those minutes? Any corrections? If not, I'd like to have a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Brian and Scott. Public hearing. Armstrong Estates. Consider change of zoning from commercial to the transitional ag. I'll open the public hearing. Public comments? For or against? Bruin?
So we had talked about this previously. Jeff Armstrong built his house out there on, it's not 300th Street, but it's out there by the, where the horse barn is at, Garvin Road, that area there. So his house is the barn dominium that's built along there. You can see it when you're heading towards Fremont. So we had talked maybe a year and a half ago about switching him to transitional ag. I put a pause on that because his daughter was looking to build there to this lot south of him, and I figured let's just do it all at once. So all this is doing is taking these 2 lots from commercial to transitional ag, essentially kind of de-zoning them back to transitional ag so they can put a single family home on there. I had the owner of Owens Mowing come in and talk to me. He was concerned about if he had to do any sort of screening. I told him, you're there first, so they kind of have, they know it's there. So there's no screening required for him after the fact. He's grandfathered in. So it's not really gonna, it's not going to affect any of the surrounding properties. They're not gonna have to do anything different. They are already established. They know that they're there. So this is just switching from commercial back to transitional ag on 2 out of the 3 lots for Armstrong Acres. So I don't know if you have any questions for the homeowner. She's here, the future homeowner. If not, that's what this one is.
Any questions, Bruin? Or anyone? All right. I will close the public hearing. Discussion? Questions by the planning commission members?
I don't know how we missed it the first time, but
Yeah, that was,
It happens.
yeah, so now we're just kind of righting all the wrongs and making sure that everything's correct.
Job security.
Yeah.
All right, I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to change zoning from commercial to transitional ag on Armstrong Estates.
Second,
I'll second
Kyle and Jim. Any other discussion? Voice vote, Christie. Opposed?
Kyle,
it. Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Danielle. Yes. Jeremy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carried. 8B, Prominence Global LLC, consider change of zoning from transitional ag to residential 2 and commercial 3 and transitional ag. I'll open the public hearing. Public comments?
Thank you, Larry. My name is Brent Beller. My address is 11440 Westerner Road in Omaha. With me today is Jeff Moore and Chris Banjay. They're with Prominence Global. They are the applicant. They are the developers of this property. And then also Kyle Bull with E&A Engineering. They're our engineer. It's taken a lot of time before we get to this point, but we're pretty excited about this piece of property to your north. So if it's okay, I'm going to kind of give a global overview of everything that it's going to take and everything that we might request from the city. Can everyone see that? Is that okay? But this is that property.
You want to put it over here?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, put it up there.
I can talk loud enough. That's okay. Microphone, I don't necessarily need it.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Okay, so this is the property. This is what we are currently under contract to acquire from EAA. So you all know, for the most part, everything in green is EAA. These fields, basically right here, they're not built yet. But at the end of the day, EAA will retain those fields for youth sports. Otherwise, everything else is what we plan to develop. And so the way we need to do this, it's going to take a lot of maneuvering, and we have sliced this apple as many ways we can to finance this thing, but it took a lot of work to get to this point. But effectively, what we're doing and what we would like to do is this from right here over, this is all single-family residential. So there's about 100 single-family residential units. In the middle, this is a lake, and that's what the reason that's there is just it's already been dredged. The lake will remain there, and one of the things that we want to do as part of our development is we want residents both located over here and then also in the city. We want them access to this lake. So this is an amenity. This will be a public lake that everybody in Valley can use, and we're as part of our development, we'll have a trail from the city. The main city coming up and having access to this lake.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Put it on
Something
there
like this, that way.
So this focus.
Everybody can see.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you all sitting over there.
You guys are gonna block the camera now.
Oh,
Let's-
sorry.
I
was doing it on purpose.
Just bring it over here. Bring it over here by the podium.
Well, it was nice of them to bring you into it.
We're all inclusive. It's all good. Everyone's good.
Something like maybe.
Put it right under the, yeah, put it right under the, yeah. So,
Let's do that. Keep going back.
Yeah.
All right, now can everybody see us? No? How about that? Good? Good. Okay, so, single family. This will be 100 single family homes, lots, in this lighter yellow over here. The way we have to do this is we have to phase this over 2 phases for financing purposes, but effectively, phase 1 is everything south down to these duplex and townhome type areas. So these are townhomes, these are duplexes. And then down here, this is about 127 multifamily residential units. Whenever you do a project of this scale, the number one thing, and I'll get to, this is commercial, but I'll get to that in a minute. You can't do any of this unless you have this. So the question is, you know, one thing that we are very, very mindful of is Valley already has lake developments. You all know that. These will be more affordable. So our price point on these is anywhere from $400,000 to $450,000 single-family homes. If you go to Omaha, you're not finding anything touching that. Another thing is with this sort of amenity and these sorts of recreational activities, this should be a really, really good development at that price point. But as you move south, so we have duplexes over here, we have our townhome development right here, and then you have the multifamily. We have contacted, we have tried to reach out to the landowners of this property to your north. They are not interested in selling. We will keep approaching that because there are some benefits to the overall development as far as connectivity to Ida Street to our north and just having a better development. But you know, we can't force them to sell. So as we sit today, this is not part of our development. So multifamily, and then eventually we'll get to the commercial. So the way we project this out is this is all industrial type flex buildings. There are some indoor sports courts that will go right here, and then all these are all commercial pads. So these are all restaurants, hotels, that sort of use is going on. As Mr. Moore, his vision for all this was, he's a resident of Valley, and he wanted a nice place that was a little closer to town that had brand new restaurants and amenities, and that's what this is. That's really the genesis behind all of this. But to do this, to finance this, we need a little cooperation from the city. I think you all have heard that there was a prior applicant, they were gonna get TIP for some of this. We've changed that a little bit. We still will need some TIP, but what we will propose, not tonight, but we would actually need what we call the residential portion. So your multifamily, your townhomes, and this to be de-annexed, much like we did on the Country Air 2 development, if any of you were here when we did that. Get it de-annexed so that we can form a sanitary and improvement district to help finance and offset a lot of the public improvement costs. So number one, that's not the City of Valley on the hook for any of that, but also it's about $16 million in just public improvements that we have to install. And so utilizing the SAD, we can pay that over the course of 20, 25 years via future sales tax dollars. When you get to the red portion, this is the commercial district, we will request the city to use TIF for that. I think there were numbers the last go around, the prior developer of 17, 20, $30 million in TIF. That's not us. We will probably have under 6 million is what our request is. And keep in mind, valuation from this side of the deal, this is about 100 million in valuation, future property tax dollars that will come off of just the residential piece. Over on the commercial side, that's about $89 million of valuation, future valuation. That will be inside the city. So that's both property taxes and sales tax revenue that's all generated off this. Not to mention everything that EAA is going to do with inside their corporate limits. So they're part of our development. Obviously without them, none of this is really going. But they need some help because as I mentioned, they're about here on their development and they need all this infrastructure really to fill in order for all this to come to fruition. So that's the request tonight. I might call Kyle up if there's any engineering as far as street improvements and that sort of stuff that the Planning Commission may want to know just about Ida and Make Street and all that.
Okay, I just want to step in
Yeah, go
quickly. So you mentioned, obviously, we have all talked, the City of Valley talked about affordable housing, right? So you touched on the single family cost, and in the meeting that we were all in, that was the first question I asked you guys. Larry, you were there. The numbers that they backed into for the 400, 450 per single family dwelling were actually pretty robust. There's quite a bit of work. Do you want to speak a little bit too on the duplex townhome costs as well? Because that was, again, when we're looking at affordable housing, right? This is the reason I think that a lot of that this shaped out the way it did is because the City of Valley was asking for affordable housing over and over again, and that's essentially what this looks like. If you want to go a little bit into that. And you also just quickly mentioned industrial here. It would be commercial, it would just be light commercial.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify that. It wouldn't be industrial, it'd be light commercial. Still, you'd have the design standards for commercial. It would just be used a little differently than just retail commercial.
Kind of like
Correct.
the
That's exactly
buildings
right.
that they have next to the bowling alley in Elkhorn.
something like those?
Yes.
Correct,
Okay.
correct,
If you
with
see-
our design standards, so
Right.
they look.
Yeah, they have stone on the front of them.
Yeah,
and stuff,
absolutely.
In a perfect world, I don't know if people feel good or not good about like what Groundscapes has. That sort of user occupier, we want folks having those sorts of buildings, those mom and pop type shops here. That's the idea behind all of those sorts of buildings. But to Rin's question, so these are your townhomes. So we have those valued at $190,000 a piece. And so if you go compare that to anything in Omaha, you're not touching anything for $190,000. Yeah.
Are those, the duplexes and the townhomes, are those gonna be owned by someone, rentals, or are you gonna sell them?
Probably sell them, I would hope. That's what
Same with
we would want.
same with duplexes?
Yep.
Try to sell one and maybe somebody rents the other half out or something?
Yeah, we don't have any plans to
To rent
go
anything.
and plat all this and then sell it to a big corporation and then to go
Have them
rent all
rent
these
all
out.
these.
We want
Okay.
people to live here. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but our model is this will work if people call this home and they take care of it a little bit better. So these duplexes, there'll be about 72 duplexes, so these are valued at probably 200,000 a piece. And then there's 127 of the townhomes, and those are valued at 190. So we have been really, and that all matters, especially when I work with Jeff and we start to do the SID financing, there's a debt ratio that usually cities get sensitive to, so we gotta keep that debt ratio below 4%, which we are. I think we're actually 4.01%. However, so that all gets to just utilizing the SID to install all these streets. There's a big magnitude of scale for installing all the sewers. And really, it's important to get them water, sanitary, all that sort of good stuff. And they'll have a contribution back to the SID. And so as we go forward and we utilize TIF, the TIF dollars actually go back to reimburse the SID for fronting all the public improvement expenses. We have looked at this for a long time, and we like to think we're good at what we do. But if this is gonna work, that is by far the best way to finance that. So Kyle, sorry, get back up and you can talk about streets and sewers and all that good stuff.
Good afternoon, Kyle Bull with Unique Consulting Group. And so, we're on the north, we got Ida Street, on the south side Meigs. The traffic study's been performed on this project. With this project, right now, all the EAA, sports traffic, all the current access points just to the north to Ida. So with this, we're giving additional circulation, not only this drive, but then as this builds out, another connection point on the western edge of the property, and then also down here to this side. So we would have more points of egress from the project with the overall project design. Improvements to Meigs and Ida Street, we would convert these at the intersections to three-lane roadway segments, so you'd have a designated left turn lane. One comment in the rec report, which we are fine with, would be to do roundabouts at these two connections, which would allow for a faster movement of traffic versus having to come out, stop sign, wait. A roundabout would actually help clear traffic more quickly from the sports facility itself. So we have those costs all factored into our SID and our total cost at this time. Granted, this is done in phases, so phase one brings this, and this is a 38-foot wide roadway segment, the Street A, as it's labeled, to this point, and then that 38-foot roadway segment would continue all the way over and up to Ida. So this would have the ability to have a through-lane traffic. This is engineering term, chicken lane, for left turns in the middle, and then another through lane on the opposite direction.
Are you gonna pave that road on the north south on the west end?
264th. This would be paved with our with our phase 2 area.
Nope, okay, all the way up to the intersection,
Correct.
all the way to Greg's house?
I don't know where Greg lives, we're gonna talk about it.
Point of ways north.
Yeah, that would be my biggest concern, because EEA assured us they would not dump any traffic onto that gravel when they were coming to us, and they have not. So when I see this big road gonna head out there, I'm thinking that's gonna need a lot of improvement. And other people on this board actually have property there too. Right now, my opinion is Ida is insufficient for what it is being used for right now. When they are running a lot of ball games, traffic's just pours out of there, and they run the stop sign going out, going east. They get to 252nd, they run the stop sign there in a continuous daisy chain of stop sign runners. And I know it's irritating a lot of the people around there. And I see this much without better road controls and wider roads, it's gonna be tough, in my opinion. So you can address that, that'd be great.
Sure. So certainly having a secondary point of egress to the south, which gets you to the actual interchange here, I think a lot of that traffic will, in the future, start going south versus north. The widening to 3 lanes per the traffic study seems to be, will handle the traffic as currently proposed. As far as promising that with this project, people don't run stop signs, I can't make that promise. So enforcement is always something that, if it's a problem, then we would notify the authorities to be out here for actual enforcement of traffic. And then that's speeding, that's running stop signs, et cetera.
So how many exits are there?
So with this build out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then possibly a 6th connection with this project. If we got the phase 3 under contract in the future.
Kyle,
Yeah.
did the traffic study include looking at the interchange? We're starting to see a little bit more congestion there at the, particularly the off-ramp, and just
Yeah.
wonder if there's a forecast looking at a future signal or any improvements there.
The current recommendations are just at these, but I'd be happy to go back and take a look at the interchange itself.
Yeah, and I don't know that the DOT is looking at anything there for traffic control, are you aware? And I don't think so, but we're getting close.
Yeah.
And I think by the time we get to near full build out,
Yeah.
something will need to be
There's a
done.
lot of traffic there.
Yeah.
It's already what you said.
Well, I happened to be getting off there when a train of right turners were coming around, and there was a lot of cars, and that's just with the fields that are built so far.
Well, and with that traffic study, when you guys do it on that intersection, I'm assuming we can engage the DOT early as well and say,
Yeah.
hey, we've got this, instead of waiting until it's built out. Now, they might tell us until it's built out, we're not gonna do anything, but at least then we've done our due diligence to, hey, we've got this traffic study from here.
Yeah, I think that'd be important. They won't put in a signal until warrants are met, but at least to let them know that, hey, we think by a certain amount of development, we're gonna hit that stage. would be good.
And what I've done in the metro area a lot, which I think is beneficial, we'll go ahead and do a design and we'll get the actual signal bid. And so that way we're timing that, so it's not like, hey, the warrants are met and now we're another year out to put the signal in. We'll have everything shovel ready, if you will, to go, so that when those warrants are met and DOT gives us the green light to put in the green light, we'll make that happen.
So, the parking stalls for the sports complex, how many do we have of those? Has that changed since the last time they were in, do you know, offhand?
You know, so I have not been the engineer, full disclosure, on the sports complex side of things, so I don't have that information off the top of my head.
Currently, it's about 1,400.
Yeah.
14,
Right
okay,
now.
I think we were saying 1,500, or was it
3,000?
3,000?
3,000 was
Yeah,
completed.
eventually, when we build more fields, we'll have some more parking to support it.
I just want to make sure when the development, if we do, it does move forward and get done, that we're not pushing people out onto the street.
This newest one, I can speak on that a little bit. This newest one, they added parking. The original, the old developer, the build out that they did previously, they had less parking in EAA's spot. And this one added more, if I'm, in a meeting that was said, and it looked visually from what I could see as well, that they actually added more to EAA's.
Do you have the ability to force them for additional parking if it comes to that?
I'm sure.
I mean, because I've seen this, I see what you're doing, well, this is what it's gonna be, and, you know, and this is gonna be there, and maybe, and then when it, I'm just saying, when it all happens and when it all comes together, if you didn't do it right, you're gonna have a mess.
When they go and pull, so they're not done building, as I mentioned, do they pull permits with you? 'Cause I think that's your hammer on them, is
Correct.
you gotta prove you can park
3 more fields, I'm making that up, with the
Yeah.
city before they can go do that.
Yeah, there's a number, like each, the ICC has, yeah, they've got parking per, okay, every single field is full, and you've got rotating in and out, and there's X amount of cars per players. The ICC has that.
And they're excellent on scheduling. If you've been out there for volleyball or anything else, baseball and volleyball, they schedule the events so they don't have, all them people at one time.
We try to stagger the times, we learn early.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even our third-party organizers that rent fields, they stagger too. We don't want to trap that many people in that little.
If you've not been out there, it's pretty cool. This weekend, they had the wheelchair softball World Series out there, and I'll bet there was 350 wheelchairs. And those
380
individuals
athletes in
were
wheelchairs.
amazing. It was amazing. They actually played on the places on the parking lot they were playing, besides the barrier-free field. So it was pretty cool.
lunch today.
Yeah.
Who's gonna have responsibility for the lake? In other words, liability issues, whatever?
I'll take that one. So we will, Jeff and I will probably have a healthy conversation about that, whether that's an SID or an owners association's responsibility to maintain that. There'll probably be a little bit of partnership with the city, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can address that. I represent 2 or 3 lake developments right now, and typically what happens is ultimately that ends up with the HOA.
Yeah.
There might be some timing issues. I mean, everybody insures against liability, and I just got asked that question Monday night at an SID meeting, so that's typically the way it would go. We could visit about it, but ultimately it would be the HOA.
Well, which is fine, but that normally starts with a subdivision agreement between
Oh, sure.
them, and now I don't see or have not heard anything about a subdivision.
Well,
That's why I'm
I'll
trying
address all that.
All right,
I'm gonna go through all that.
All right.
That's on my,
Because I'm just saying, if nobody's gonna be responsible for that, there's a hell of a lot of liability issues that are
Well,
gonna be.
they can't put it in without somebody getting out.
yeah, we're in the beginning phases of this. That will certainly be addressed.
All right.
Quick question about the lake. What is the size in acres?
25 acres, and right now we're proposed to be 35 foot deep.
Okay. And I'm assuming you're taking material to build up the rest of the site?
So the whole area is in floodplain,
Right.
so we're lifting the entire site approximately 3 feet.
Okay. What kind of use? Are you just talking no motorboats, or are you talking jet skis? What's going to be in there?
Guess we haven't gotten to that level of detail.
Okay.
Initial conversations is probably a no wake type situation, so.
Probably a fishing lake at best.
Just curious about that.
With all those houses, all right.
Swimming, you can swim.
I think backing up one step, if that's gonna be public access, then the city probably has some type of liability.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to work
That's
through
how
all
it was
that.
presented,
Yeah.
that's what
We'll have to
bothered
work through all
me.
that.
That's what bothered me, because it's always gonna have public access, so that means Valley's gonna own it. Anybody in Valley can go out there and use the lake. Now, if I'm one of those homeowners around there and that gets to be a mess, I'm just seeing.
It's a good question, and we'll have to address it.
Yeah, in all honesty, if the city doesn't want that to be public, I think we're open to that too. This was more our idea of, not everyone has access to a lake around here, but there's a lot of lakes around here, let's give access. But if that becomes an issue, by all means, we're not married to that idea.
Yeah, and it's more complicated than that too, because, I mean, I think Brent and myself are both gonna wanna talk to our insurance carriers
Right.
in terms of whatever's gonna happen to make sure we have proper coverage.
It's just how it was kind of presented and glossed over that I go,
No, that should be on the list.
Any other questions? Or any other presentation? Yes,
Ask a
sir.
question. If you, are talking about widening Ida, how many more feet wide out of the landowners that are on either side of it would that take?
So right now it's a 33-foot right-of-way on either side, so it'd be an additional 17 feet to get to a 50-foot right-of-way on either side of the section line.
But that's all within the easement already, correct? Is there easement there, or would land have to be purchased, I think is what he's asking.
I think land would be purchased. It's an existing 33-foot right-of-way. It would be purchased out to the 100. So it's 100 total, 50-foot either side of section line. So if you're a particular, say you're a landowner on the north side, that would be the acquisition of 17 feet to get you to the 50 foot right of way.
Well, this is talking about a landowner on the future phase concept.
Then that would be an acquisition of 17 feet on the south side.
And what happens if the landowner does not want to sell any of that?
The good news, I guess, would be at this point, that is not a phase that we're constructing, and so we would not be doing any improvements to Ida Street along that frontage.
But if you're talking about widening, so you have easier access and less traffic into this up here, wouldn't you want to do the whole thing?
So the majority of these traffic movements are all north and then westbound or eastbound to either, I guess, to this interchange and then in. The traffic continuing east, once this other road here will be minimized. And so I don't envision these improvements to Ida needing to happen until, if and when this develops.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Mr. Noyes?
around the lake, are those home sites? Is that what that is?
So these are single-family home sites.
Okay,
around the lake.
the last plan had no homes around the lake at all, and now you're putting homes?
The last plan did have.
Mr. Noyes, they were there.
Oh, I was told that they weren't there because we did, that's
On the
why
west side,
the
there
ag
were
was
some
gonna be a mud
apartments.
puddle for the.
In the original plan, west side, but on the
Did they have a
northeast
kind of
and
a
south
buffer
side, there
zone
was
for-
houses.
Yeah.
And then I'll point out the green space, these would be public access areas. So they're view corridors into the lake through the public streets, and then also these would be our public access points for, and then we've got a trail system that comes through, and then that also is a public access location that connects to the trail
Is
system.
this considered a preliminary plat?
It is preliminary plan.
Yes.
Okay, because, I mean, we started on 8B and then there's 8C, so I'm trying to figure out what it is that we're.
That's probably my fault. I was giving you the global view. But yes, today, the only thing you're being asked is the preliminary plat.
Just,
and the
it's just
resulting.
preliminary, yeah. And then the change of zone.
We're just considering changing zoning today.
And preliminary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, I didn't know what we were gonna vote on to send it, so I just want to get it straight.
What's your name, sir, and your address?
13676 North, 252nd Street, Wall, Maryland, President Maryland Wall, I'm Jasper Son. If all this is rezoned commercial, will phase, the future phase concept be able to stay out and be ag?
Absolutely. Yeah, because, we or they can't force you to change your land. No, you're, I would say the word grandfather, that's not kind of an icky word in planning, but you could absolutely stay transitional. Yeah, there's no pressure. Now, if they were to buy it, then they would have to change it to match. But if nothing happens, then no, it just stays the same. Yep, absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
And to clarify, adjacent, this would be a residential zoning. The commercial zoning is what we, what's in red. This is all residential zoning. It would be adjacent, just to clarify.
So how would access to, public access, if it's all residential around there, how are we gonna have public access
So the fence,
on the lake with it all being residential around it?
so that's the green spaces that we've identified. These would be the public access points. And so we would have dock locations and access.
Oh, boy. What a go rope that's gonna be.
Doesn't have to be a public lake.
That'd be private.
I would say it'd be a better option to be private.
The idea was to offer an amenity to Valley for the SID.
Totally get it, but I see it being a.
Yeah, you can talk on this one.
It would be easier on us.
This one too.
But we're open to any ideas for it to be a benefit for all residents.
Possibly instead of having that public access, maybe adding bike trail or walking trail, you know, to that main road going through so that the public can maybe ride around on a bike and not access through to the lake, something like that.
Sure.
As an option.
Sure. I mean, none of that affects the preliminary plat, whether it's private or public, and we can have conversations if we move along in this process before you all see the final plat about that. So
again, we're open to discussion on that. And I guess you didn't touch on it. There is some discussions about trying to acquire or expand the city's current bike trail from this, approximately this location across. And so we brought the trail across with the potential of whether that connection ends up going further north or further south. We're open to that, but we ultimately would like to see this connect into the valley proper from a pedestrian and bike standpoint.
You've got a gas line going through there too, don't you?
We do. Correct. So the gas line is identified in the dash user area.
Rune, will we need to modify our fence or view of the EAA part to the commercial buildings around on that west side so that the fencing and stuff is on site?
So usually the fencing, the screening comes in on industrial type stuff. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I don't believe so.
Will there be any outside storage around it?
No. So this, first of all, there's no outdoor storage anyways, and second of all, they had come to us talking about industrial, and that would be spot zoning, so it wouldn't be allowed, and that's all highway commercial anyways. So there's no outdoor storage or indoor storage allowed anywhere in Valley anymore, so none of that would be outdoor or in. Now, with the only exception is if they do contractor bays, construction yards are still allowed on the small side, skid loaders, trailers, stuff like that. Those are allowed. And then when that would come down to the individual permit on that lot and then what would be required moving forward. But yeah, if they want to put a construction yard in the back, there's a pretty good chance that not only myself, but if there's covenants here that they're going to say, hey, you have to screen this off, you have to do, and that was with talking with the developers as well. I think there's probably a pretty good chance that that wouldn't happen. But if it does, then yes, that would tie to the individual permit on said parcel and what someone wants to do. Then yes, if they've got 15 skid loaders back there, they're going to be putting up a screen.
No.
And with the landscaping.
I'm assuming the property along Diesels will probably need some kind of a fence.
Yeah.
You got kids playing around, looking at heavy equipment going, oh, look at those big Tinker Toys. I want to go over there and jump and crawl and climb. So I think we probably should look at that pretty seriously in the future.
Yeah, sure.
And they want to protect their equipment too.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. And they should be responsible for it because they were there first. So yeah, that's a conversation with EA.
Ma'am, do you have a question in the back?
I do.
Will you stand and say your name and address, please?
Terry Miller, 523 North Center Street.
Thank you.
I'm on the, it would be the west, no, way on the, over on the other side of the highway.
West side, okay.
Yeah. Is this going to affect my property at all?
No, because you're down here, right? Like here's the Y's right here.
Yep, on the
Yeah.
other side of the
You're
tape
like
cover.
kind of right here.
Nope,
Ish.
I'm further.
Oh, that's right.
That's
Here's tape cover here. You're
Yep.
like back here.
I'm right next to him.
Yep. So you've got 275 in between you.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see there being.
No water, no, nothing.
This all drains, this actually all drains through, then there's this north of the lake that actually drains underneath 275.
Yeah, I just meant, you're not gonna hook up to water and sewer from way over by our place, are you?
The sewer line, the existing sanitary sewer is here.
Okay.
So that would connect to the south.
It's at-
There would be water main extensions that come down Ida
Okay.
eventually and down Meigs, but
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
she has touched on, so, and we are factoring in stormwater detention. So obviously we've got a 25 acres of lake, so we're going to use that to do some water detention as well.
All right, Jeff, did you want to talk on that?
Yeah, just generally, Brent has covered a lot of what I was gonna say. But there's 2 public hearings. We wanted to go through everything the first time, so we didn't have to do it again. And, this is technically preliminary plat and rezoning right now, the first shot at it. But a lot's gonna change, and it's gonna come back in front of you and the city council. I wanna go through the schedule in a minute here. I do want to say that, we get a lot of people that come to us for different things out in Valley, and I've dealt with most of them over the years. the people involved in this project I've worked with and are all very good, and they tend to give us projections and figures that you can rely on, that they've vetted. Bluestone Capital is not here, but they have done a lot of financial analysis on the SID side and how it affects everything else. It's all tied together. As I understand it, for the project to work, it all has to be as Brent described. We have to have the SID to finance the residential, and there's contributions back and forth. There's a contribution from EAA. The TIF helps with all that cost, so it's all one bundle. If one leg of that, if you will, doesn't work, then the project doesn't work. So is that a correct summary of where we are?
Take the village.
Yeah, right. So anyway, I wanted to say that first. A lot of these issues will be handled in the subdivision agreement and the various agreements. We'll have to do. We've got a lot of work to do. We've talked with the developer, and they would like to move this along as fast as they reasonably can. Okay. So basically, you know what's happening tonight. We do have a TIF committee meeting this Friday, and they're going to make, we've met with them a couple of times, but they're going to make a recommendation. I'm jumping around here, but I think I'm making sense. Tell me if I'm not, okay? I can tell you where the lake thing came from. When we talked with them the first time, and several, at least one member of the city council, but there was some thought related to TIF that there should be a benefit to the public. And I think that's where the public lake idea came from, okay? Whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, we can talk about, but that's the genesis of it. So we're gonna have that meeting. I'm just gonna kind of go through this. We may have another sort of TIF educational presentation for a couple of the council members. Two of them will be at the TIF committee meeting this Friday. Councilman, I think Batcher and Tenike am I correct, Chrissy?
Yes, you are.
And then I think we need to have, because you can't do this piecemeal, you need to see the whole thing for it to make sense. So we'll probably have an educational meeting, not a public meeting with them, and ask these gentlemen to come again and go through and make their presentation. So the public hearing and recommending approval of preliminary plat will be at the September council meeting. September Planning Commission meeting, we need to amend the future land use map in connection with this. So that'll be on planning in September, on September 17th. And so because of the TIF, we need this area, and it's just a commercial area, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just the commercial area needs to be declared blighted and substandard, so there'll be a public hearing and resolution in front of you at the September meeting for that. The October council meeting, October 8th, my wife's birthday. That would be a good way to remind me of that. So public hearing and approval of the amendment to future land use map. We'll have the pre-development cost agreement then, okay, so we can see what the little bit of the numbers are for the infrastructure. We'll have a public hearing and resolution on the blighted and substandard designation. And the CDA, the Community Development Authority, will meet and refer the redevelopment plan to you guys for review and your recommendation, much as we have done just in the past with access. The October 15th Planning Commission, you guys have a lot of work to do. Public hearing and review the redevelopment plan for compliance with the CDP and the future land use map, the amended future land use map. Public hearing and on the rezoning, and public hearing and recommending approval or denial of the final plat, okay? And then in November, as Brent mentioned, the area for the SID needs to be de-annexed. You can't be in a city and be an SID. So that takes an ordinance of the city council. That will be in our schedule, and everything has to go according to plan, obviously, for this schedule to work. This is kind of our wish list, and we're all gonna work hard to see if we can get it done. There'll be a CDA meeting, and they'll recommend the redevelopment plan to the council, public hearing, council votes on the redevelopment plan. CDA approves the bond resolution. This assumes that they're given TIF, okay? They're still, I'm jumping around here, but the TIF committee will have to make a recommendation. And the council will have to approve that. You guys don't approve the amount of the TIF. You look at the plan to see that it complies with the comprehensive development plan. So then, public hearing and final plat approval, public hearing and rezoning, Mark, Magic Words subdivision agreement, and the agreement for ILOC, which is the irrevocable letter of credit for the private improvements. There's a lot of issues. This is a very complex development with a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things that Brent and I are going to have to work through, but we've worked together before, and I'm confident that we can get that done if the planning and city council moves this along. So your concerns are very real concerns. That's a good point, and I took notes of everything you brought up, and we'll address it with the developers, and you'll hear about it again. And
I don't know, but we're gonna have to get more money. That's a lot of work for us.
My only real concern of, and the reason I went for subdivision was I heard the nasty word HOA brought up, and I'm saying, in order to get to the HOA, you know, if they're gonna be governing, there's gotta be a foundation for that, and right now there isn't.
yeah, no, we'll talk about
There's
it.
no HOA.
Are you guys trying to move dirt this year, weather pending? Is that what you guys are trying to do?
I mean, yeah, a little bit for us, but who knows?
So I know a little bit about EAA's plan. They have some money and some grants and funds that sounds like they need to use yet this year. And so I do believe EAA would like to do some additional dirt work on their side. That's a tune of about 60,000 cubic yards.
That's all coming out of the lake, right?
They got a stockpile. They do have a stockpile.
Oh, they do have a stockpile
that they can use, but there is going to be some borrow area from the lake area as well. So that for sure. For us, if we get a level of comfort that things will move forward, yes, we would probably start. We'd like to start moving some dirt or getting ahead on schedule, but we certainly don't want to spend dollars until we have all of our ducks in a row with the city and financing side.
And our dirt would build 4 new diamonds and parking to support 4 new diamonds.
Great. Any other questions or comments by anybody? If not, I'll close the...
Hold on, Greg.
Well, no, I got
Oh,
one
geez,
more.
Greg, I'm so sorry.
We didn't even know you were here.
Because you guys, they've already been hitting me left and right here.
He's gonna bill us anyway.
The change of rezoning, just if you guys do recommend that, we do need to make that contingent upon that single family around the lake being R3, because that's our lakefront residential. And our, which is, I believe, I wrote down lots 4 through 15, 89 through 128. And then lot 1, which is the AA, would go to C3 because it's not going to be a TA, transitional ag use. That's not a agricultural use, so that would be rezoned as just to C3 as well. So that would be part of the motion of that. But I have listened to all the other comments, and I think we hit all of the main topics here on the preliminary plat.
So it's an R3 and C3?
So you still have R2 and R3 for the residential use on the eastern half, and then basically everything on the western half goes to C3 to match the uses.
Could you help make the motion so we don't screw this up?
Absolutely, he's gonna help make the motion.
The motion would be very close to approve the change of rezoning from transitional ag to R2 and R3 and C3 for the proposed development, Catalina.
Make the motion.
I'm gonna close the public hearing. Any other discussion? All right, vote, or motion, I'm sorry.
I make the motion.
Great, did you get that, Christie?
Yeah, you guys now are gonna have to tell me that board's in my way, so you're gonna have to tell me who's making them.
Okay. Did you make a motion, Mark?
Mark, make a motion to
Mark did?
Do what Greg
forward
said.
to to do what Greg said. That's the best motion I can make.
We need a second.
Second.
Jim? Voice vote.
Okay. Kyle,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Danielle. Yes. Jeremy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Motion carried. Okay, item 8C, Permanence Mobile LLC, consider approval of preliminary plat. I'll open the public hearing. Public comments?
I can do it all over again.
Okay, if there's no,
I have just a clarification question, Brent.
Yeah.
The area is all of the lot? Show me exactly what's on the preliminary plat. Is it
Oh,
everything or
It's,
just
yeah,
a
it's
portion?
everything. No, we're keeping the EAA as one single lot, right, Kyle?
Correct.
Yeah, so the, sorry, I got a bum left arm. Yes, all these lots, these will be individually platted. This is a single lot, this is a single lot, these are each single lots, and this is one lot. So that's what your preliminary plat will reference, and Greg has a copy of that.
So everything in red's on the preliminary plat?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
that's all I wanted to clarify for everybody.
any other comments? I'll close the public hearing.
I've got a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Do you want to go, Scott? Yeah, I'm going there too.
I take
Go
that
ahead.
back.
Yeah, so
We're on the same
it
page.
looks like on item 2 on the application, it says we're requesting to rezone the property to R2 and C3. Should that be amended to be R2, R3, and C3?
Correct.
Any other discussion? If not, I'll ask for a motion on this item.
I would make a motion to approve preliminary plat.
Brian, second.
I'll second.
And Scott, any other discussion? Voice vote?
Kyle,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Danielle. Yes. Jeremy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Well, thank you. And now for the most exciting item. 8D, Electrical Code Adoption. Consider adopting National Electrical Code 2023.
Okay, this is super easy. Very,
Public hearing.
Oh, nobody can leave. You have to listen to it.
I mean, we gotta stay at your stand.
He's gonna read the whole thing.
if there's no public,
Well, you know how to clean out the room.
I know. This is really simple.
Lock the door, lock the door.
So
What?
Yes, sir.
Do you? No,
This shouldn't take long, right?
go ahead.
no, this is pretty simple. All of our, so the Nebraska State Electricals Association, they dictate what code we use. There's no, it's not up to us. The state just says this is what we're gonna use. So because we use Sam as our electrical inspector, in Nebraska, you have to be a journeyman electrician to be an electrical inspector. I'm not a journeyman electrician. So we have Sam from Douglas County. He's always done our electrical inspections. So all this is doing is just amending what the state is telling Sam and us to enforce. That's all it is. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Any other public comment, is there?
What if we say no?
I suppose we'll be getting a call from the state office and they're gonna be telling us why we're not doing it, and then who knows what happens then, but I'm sure it's not good.
Can't do inspections, probably.
I'm not sure. I don't wanna go down that road, so.
Yeah, no,
Any
Brian, those are done.
questions? We have an electrician on the board here, we do.
It's true.
Any problem with the 23 National Electrical Code? Nope. Never mind.
Not with the exceptions they had.
I'll close the public hearing. Any other discussion? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Mark?
I'll second.
And Kyle? Any other discussion? Voice vote?
Kyle,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Danielle. Yes. Jeremy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
I'm good at this.
Motion carried.
Motion carried. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn? Or should we just sit here?
Yeah.
Greg and Mark, as Mark goes out the door. All in favor, get up and leave.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Jeff.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
I can't wait to sit in your restaurant.
Yeah. That's two of them. We're gonna get paid back.
That's where we're gonna get a free drink maybe or something.
There's almost nothing to me on that.